everyone, my name is Pat. I teach creative coding primarily with P5.js. Alright, so here's me teaching on YouTube, typing every character at a time. And then here on the right is a sketch I generated using AI. And as an educator, seeing a vibe-coded sketch produced with so little effort gave me a serious pause. It begs the question, if anyone can just vibe code this, why bother learning to code from scratch? And it is a completely fair question, and it forced me to look inward and really ask, would I keep making these tutorials if no one is watching? And the answer is 100% yes. Why? Because I genuinely love the friction. I love grappling with the math and the algorithms, wrestling with it until it finally clicks. Over the last few years, making these tutorials has been my ultimate brain workout and also my deep source of fulfillment. But here's the reality. The tech world is telling us, including my audience, to completely outsource that workout to a black box. And while my personal love for the craft might keep me making these videos, if the way I teach no longer resonates with my audience that can now generate code instantly, then half of the fulfillment is gone. It forced me to stop and face two massive questions. First, is the tech world right? Should we just give up, take our hands off the keyboard, and completely outsource our creative work to AI? And second, if the answer is yes, then what is my role now as an educator in this space? And to answer these two questions, I knew I had to really work with AI. And that brought me to my very first interaction with the technology. I called this period my era of high frustration. During this time, the code I got back from AI never matched the vision in my head. And I blamed it on two things. I think that the models weren't quite there yet, but honestly, I hadn't figured out how to talk to them yet. But during this period though, even though I wasn't able to generate any beautiful sketches with AI, I found it incredibly useful as a personal tutor and a working companion. I used it as a sounding board to break down complex concepts, validate my understanding, and outline my scripts. And so my early interaction with AI really accelerated both my learning and also my process. But it was actually October of last year when I had my first taste of the magic moment. It's that, wow, it can really do that kind of feeling I think many of us have experienced with our own AI journeys. At the time, I was using AI to create a website where I integrated a P5 sketch right into it. And I'm not exaggerating when I said that it blew my mind. Something I had been trying to piece together for the longest time was alive, functional, and running in under 15 minutes. 2 prompts, that was it. But once the adrenaline faded, I was left looking at a scaffolding of a website in a code base that I couldn't navigate, and that was not a great feeling. And so I went back to where I started, using AI as a tutor to learn the nuts and bolts of web development. I decided to take full control of the steering wheel, having AI explain how things worked and provided the code, but I typed everything out myself. I intentionally did it this way because I believe it is the only way to build muscle memory and retain knowledge. Which brings me to the friction I'm navigating right now. There's a fine line between typing every character yourself and completely letting the AI take the wheel. How do we balance the speed of automated generation with the necessity of foundational understanding? So I came up with an experiment to test my boundary with AI. And for this experiment, I wanted to lean as close to the AI side as I possibly could just to see what would happen. I decided to build a playful interactive website where swarming 3D particles would flock onto a hand-drawn line and form a dynamic looping animation. So I started out by writing a rough plan outlining the website and the stack that I wanted to use. Then I prompted it to Claude Code, and quickly I got a scaffolding of a website with a hand-drawn feature running on a phone. This was 2 prompts maximum, so I was off to a great start. But then I tried to describe the complex organic particle motion using just natural language. I dumped reference images into the chat, I tried to write out descriptions, but my prompts were vague, and it led to this exhausting, endless back and forth. After a few hours of wrestling with this, the end result was just generic. It worked, but the energy required was way too high. But then it clicked. The problem wasn't who was controlling the wheel. The problem was that I was not giving good directions. I was using casual everyday language that was difficult for AI to understand, resulted in a cycle of mind-reading games between me and them. I realized to get what I actually wanted, I needed to change the way I talk to it. I have to use technical vocabulary and guide the logic rather than waiting for the black box to surprise me. And I could do this using just natural language with more specific technical terms, or I could go back to where I'm most comfortable with, the P5.js editor, and I chose the latter. I started experimenting in P5 to nail the motion and the transitions that I wanted. This time, even though I was working with P5, it became a collaborative effort. I coded bits myself, and when I used AI, I used precise technical vocabulary to tell it exactly what to do with my code. And once I got a sketch I actually loved, I asked it to port that logic back into my initial scaffolding of a website. The process became incredibly fun, fast, and productive. And now the foundation is working. My next step is just to start vibing with it, leaving room for those happy accidents that make creative coding so fun in the first place. So, what did I learn? This experiment made me realize that the equilibrium isn't about pushing AI aside and coding everything from scratch. It's about recognizing that you can only safely let AI take the wheel if you know exactly how to give it the right coordinates. It's a collaboration where AI does the heavy lifting, but your technical knowledge dictates the map. You've been told that AI expands your leverage, but what they don't tell you is that your technical vocabulary dictates the length of your lever. Why? Because that's exactly how these models actually work. If you rely 100% on the machine's imagination, your output is mathematically confined to the averages of its data, its training data. The technical foundation allows you to break out of predictable patterns and create something truly original. Without it, you're trapped inside a black box you cannot fix. But on top of all of this, there's a deeper reason why building this technical foundation still matters. Just like how I realized that I love making tutorials because it's my favorite form of a brain workout. Wrestling with that underlying logic and architecting these systems ourselves remain the ultimate cognitive exercise. And in a world where execution is completely automated, that capacity for rigorous thinking becomes your only true competitive advantage. It's incredibly easy to let go of the steering wheel because automation is comfortable. But I challenge you, don't take the easiest path because in an automated world, the act of thinking itself is the only real power you have left. Thank you.